Thank you everyone for your attention. I hope you enjoyed our break. And I also hope you got a chance to taste one of the traditional Dutch sweets. As you could see, the cake was being passed around, and that is one of the traditional Dutch things. And if you're staying here for King's Day, you might see a lot more of that, but this time it will be orange. But I would like to thank you for your attention with our previous 3 teams. And I would also like to extend a large thank you to our partner, Hema, that has been providing some of the snacks and the cake as you saw outside. But for now, can we please give a warm welcome to our next team, KRIS Associates.
We are joined by KRIS Associates, and they will be presenting their 24-hour Logitech case. Before we get started, I would like to invite all judges in the finalist panel to briefly state their names and titles.
Hello, my name is René Seiger. I've been a strategy consultant for 30 years in various parts of the world.
JE today, Logitech, I lead commercial strategy for Europe and Asia Pacific.
Good morning, Carla Bergman, Logitech, global lead for operations and supply chain transformation.
Good morning, good afternoon. We just passed 12 o'clock. Christel Liedrich, responsible for business development, cloud and AI in Europe for Huawei Technologies.
Good afternoon, Gert van Essen, former board member of KPMG, responsible for advisory and HR in Europe, Middle East and Africa.
Thank you, judges. We are now ready to begin the presentation. Team, today we'll have 15 minutes to present, followed immediately by a 15-minute Q&A. My colleague Rebecca will keep time throughout both parts. During both the presentation and Q&A, we will hold up signs when you have 5 minutes and 1 minute remaining. In the final 10 seconds, we will count down on our fingers. Once your time is up, you may finish your final sentence, after which we will cut you off. If a technical issue arises, we will pause the clock and allow for up to 5 minutes to resolve it. If the issue cannot be fixed within that time, you will need to continue your presentation under the circumstances. Your slide deck has already been projected. Can you confirm that these are your slides? Thank you. Upon your first word, we will start the timer. Good luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, take a walk with me. I'm sure everyone here is familiar with the shoe brand Crocs. You know, the ones with the holes in them. For the last 40 years, Crocs has been a brand for dads. But TikTok pushed Gen Zs to put these small, colorful accessories, called gibbets, into the holes of these shoes. Do you know what the result was? In 2022, Crocs grew $1.3 billion in revenue in a single year. But Crocs didn't change the shoe. All they did was find a way to let Gen Z make it their own. Logitech has that exact same opportunity, but with a far superior product. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are KRIS Associates, and today, let's extend human potential in work and play. You wanted a social commerce strategy, first year, and then lay the foundation for 5 years and beyond. Well, our Canvas project does exactly that in Germany, and we take those learnings and we put it into a playbook and repeat it for the region. This allows us to hit our financial and non-financial success, and more importantly, cement you as a global social commerce leader. But first, before we target Gen Z, we have to understand Gen Z. Anna.
Thank you, Lynn. Let's dive into our analysis. There's no question that Logitech is the market leader. The question is, why don't Gen Zs get it? And here, we explain this in 2 fronts. Firstly, in terms of Logitech's appeal and the channel. They're known to be the trusted, functional brand, and they're on top of the retail shelves in Europe. But where Gen Zs are at is different. They are an audience where you need to speak to their hearts, their emotions, rather than just functions. And second, they discover and purchase products on social commerce. And that is exactly the structural gap that we need to bridge today. And how we do that is first by creating that iconic message that speaks to their hearts, and secondly, building that social commerce channel to sell to them. Now, first, let's talk about what that iconic message should look like. When it comes to Gen Zs, their life moments are no longer what defines their purchases. Other brands have found ways to meet them before and beyond that life moment. Moreover, these life moments are diverse and unique to every Gen Z. Key takeaway here is first, we need to leverage on our brand strengths to have a message that is unique and different from the competitors. And second, this message needs to be scalable to reach the different needs and desires of this very audience. Now, our answer to that is personalization as the core message. And the numbers, statistics said it all. Logitech in fact knows this, and that's why they released the Pop line, which gives custom emojis, but also multiple fun colorways for Gen Zs. But we think there's a little gap here. In terms of customization, the customization is within the software and it's only seen by the laptop, not the hardware. And second, there are only 3 to 4 colorways, which forces Gen Zs to pick 3 to 4 options rather than express themselves. And in order to truly be a market leader, we need to be on the forefront of personalization. This has been echoed through brands like Nike. While having multiple colorways, that is not enough. They've created this system to allow Gen Zs to express their favorite colorways and even put their name on it, driving their revenues. Now, let's dive into social commerce. We have entered China and had so much success there, and 3 key learnings we want to take away. Firstly, diving into the different micro-segmentations because the audience is just so diverse. Second, letting creators speak for themselves. Third, ensuring our distribution network is robust and ensuring brand consistency across the region. However, Europe is a very different landscape. 3 things we need to take note. Firstly, the nascent social commerce landscape. Second, privacy and GDPR concerns. And lastly, reliance on retail partners. While this is such an attractive opportunity, we have to understand there are several limitations with where we're at now. And that is why it's so important for our first year pilot to anchor among 3 things. Firstly, we must target a country or a market that's large enough for us to prove the demand exists. Second, we must ensure to capture first-party data to ensure the relationship and data with consumers is ours and ours to learn from. Lastly, we need to create a scalable playbook so that we can scale it across the multiple countries across the European region. Now, Jocelyn, how does that pilot look like?
Thank you, Anna. Now, judges, I hope you're as excited as I am to share our 1-year pilot strategy, the KRIS project. Now, the pilot is extremely important to set the foundation of our future in social commerce in Europe. Now, as a team, we were inspired by what we see amongst Gen Zs. This is a phenomenon not just limited to Crocs and Jibbitz, but everyday objects like water bottles, phone covers, and more. Everyday objects are becoming canvases for Gen Zs to express their identity. Hence why we see an opportunity for Logitech to position itself as a canvas for the Gen Z identity. But judges, we don't want to just sell decals. What we want to do here is to spark a movement where everyday peripherals, that is something that is largely functional today, to move it into something that can be uniquely personal for the Gen Z, be it if they're a gamer, a creator, or an athlete. We believe that this will help Logitech become a truly iconic brand for Gen Zs. Now, but to really target and speak to the Gen Z market, we believe that you have to tailor your brand positioning slightly while retaining the core brand essence of what Logitech is. And we feel this sits on the intersection of 3 things. First, expert functionality, which is what Logitech is and already is good at. But we think there's room to speak to the Gen Z market and appeal to them by expressing, being more fun, positioning Logitech as a more fun and expressive brand, and at the same time, desirable, something Gen Zs want to be seen with. But then will decals affect the performance?
Jocelyn, how can you ask these kind of questions? It's Logitech. It will be quality. Let's dive into it. First, performance is unhindered. With it being thinner than paper, it's virtually imperceptible. Next, durability is guaranteed. 3M cast vinyl means that it's waterproof, lasts for years, no negative effect on our consumer. Lastly, why can't I just buy a knockoff? because authenticity is verified through a holographic embossed Logitech, making it a premium feel for every customer. We've also found you a supplier which is just 45 minutes away from your distribution factory, known for making its great products. It's definitely a success. Back to you, Justin.
Thank you, Lynn. But judges, the question still stands. How do we win in social? Because ultimately, for social commerce, the content is everything. It is what will stop the scroll and make the sale. But we believe as a team that content moves fast. What is trending today might not be trending anymore in a month's time. So our strategy is really focused on the process of how we develop content. We first need to understand what works in that local market at that given time. And this is where we believe we have to do research and also set that strategy with our creators. And when we look at the operating model of how to execute this, we think we can use local agencies where we can really amplify the message. But the most important part is what should the shoppable format really look like, which is something that we have yet to explore as a company in Europe. And so, judges, we have mapped out 3 key elements that makes a successful shoppable strategy. We first have to start with the hook, which will stop the scroll. Now, this really depends on the market and what is trending at the time, but we have some ideas already. Next, we also have to use Logitech to amplify our creators to reach the right Gen Z audience. And we believe we can do this through solutions in social media like Spark Ads. And finally, there needs to be a clear path to direct purchase. Now imagine, as a Gen Z, at night as I'm scrolling, I see the content of Logitech on my page and I can immediately click and it will lead me to the Logitech website. I can then buy a bundle with the mouse and sticker pack of my choice and I can start creating my canvas today. Now we have developed a comprehensive plan for our 1-year strategy and across 4 key elements. First, what platform? TikTok and Instagram stand out to us for its large Gen Z adoption, its commerce maturity with infrastructure already in place, and also shopping behavior. We also took a look at where exactly in Europe should we launch our pilot, and we concluded that the answer is Germany because it has a large Gen Z population, social commerce is already a thing there amongst Gen Zs, and finally, judges, it is near our distribution center here in the Netherlands. We also considered what product should we really lead with, and we have done the research. Gen Zs tend to have lower disposable incomes, and when we looked at global benchmarks across different social commerce platforms, the average order value of social commerce is about 30 euros because it really drives that impulse purchase with a low barrier. So what this all means for Logitech is to lead with SKUs that are accessibly priced for our Gen Zs. And finally, we are confident that we can deliver on this 1-year social pilot because our distribution center is just 6 hours away from Germany, and we can even work with a local fulfillment partner to make sure those orders are delivered. And we've identified Z Fulfillment as the partner of choice. But the question is then, how will we launch, Lynn?
Well, judges, we need to have a live launch event to connect the offline and the online. So first, we invite creators to our studios, like the one in your office, and of course, they shoot and live stream content, but that's when we'll tell them about the decal packs. But the best thing is, they get to design their own decal packs in front of that audience that they have, and the audience will then head to Logitech's account to vote on which one is the best. Now, the best voted one becomes Logitech's next decal pack, which is genius because it drives another round of engagement and conversion for our customers. And lastly, judges, this turns it into Logitech's co-creation event with Gen Z, meaning they'll speak about it even if we don't pay them. To summarize, this is our entire launch package in one. We lead with the creator event, and then we amplify with our channels and convert them to sales. But after 1 year, what does that look like? We track leading indicators, which tells us if we're on the right path for success. But I don't just want to find out everything after a year. I want to know what happens per month. Are the numbers moving? What are my likes like? Making operational tweaks, small changes. But quarterly reviews for those high-level decisions. Are my creators doing well? What mixes should I have? Strategic pivots. But lastly, and the most important one, is the post-pilot after-action review. Now this one verifies if our core thesis was right. We take all these learnings, we put it into a playbook, which is exactly needed for our phase 2 expansion. Over here. Ignore me. Anyways, Logitech has a living playbook, post-pilot, that makes it better and better over time. The pilot strategy skeleton, any marketing team can run with it. But they gain the lessons learned from our reviews, And lastly, when they want to enter a new market, they have a checklist that verifies if that market was just as good as the one we selected for Germany. Putting this all together, we don't just have a static playbook, we have a living, breathing document. It is owned by the European Social Commerce Lead, yes, but it's constantly updated by regional teams from everywhere in Europe. This makes it a better and better strategy over time, and we present it at the quarterly business review, where after senior endorsement, it is a credible and scalable expansion strategy for Logitech. When this foundation is set, I have so many ideas for you. It is truly a world of possibilities. But let me start with one. With the same mechanic, we can target similar audiences like gaming, working with Twitch. People pay for online emoticons if you believe it, but now we can turn it into physical tokens. But what this means is that personalization has transcended past the entry product line and is now exactly what we need to push past for higher margin products. And so sorry, judges, I have so many ideas I want to share with you, and I'm happy to do so in the Q&A, but I want you to take away one thing. If the pilot proves it, the playbook scales it, and you own the data and the relationship with the Gen Zs, the only question is, how far do you want to take it?
Thanks, Lynn. And now it's time to really drive this presentation home. We do so with financial benefits. Notably, we achieved more than 100 million euros in incremental revenues by the 5th year, proving that social commerce and Gen Zs can be a very lucrative segment for Logitech. To do so, we have 3 key milestones. Firstly, we must have a successful launch in Germany with creators. Secondly, onboarding their 3PL partner. And lastly, the launch of phase 2 in France. If all this is achieved, we will hit significant financial benefits. Notably, we have 6.8% of total European revenues coming from social commerce. On top of that, we've carefully allocated the 1 million euro budget given to us in the first year. We are highlighting that we want to invest in creators because they are the cornerstone of any important social media platform. On top of that, we know that we hit EBITDA positive in 2028 and cumulatively break even in 2029. We've also highlighted 3 key risks as well as their corresponding mitigations. So judges, you've come to us with a task to prove that Logitech can in fact reach out to Gen Zs and succeed in social commerce in Europe. You are equipped with our strategies. Firstly, the pilot launch in Germany. Secondly, rolling out and using that repeatable playbook to conquer new markets and new target audiences. And if all this works out, you will hit significant financial returns. Thus, you are now equipped for your journey to China, where you can incorporate learnings from their markets to further improve and strengthen your strategies. So judges, we Gen Zs, we're a funny bunch. We took Crocs and turned it into culture. We took Hydro Flasks and turned them into our personalities. We took the Stanley Cup and used it to tell a story. These brands took everyday household items and turned them into cultural icons by making them canvases for personal expression. And judges, we believe the next cultural icon is a mouse. Thank you.
Thank you, team, for your presentation. We will now begin with the 15-minute Q&A session. The time will start once the first question is asked by the judges. Judges, take it away.
Thank you for the presentation and lighting. You position it clearly as a canvas. Now, with other canvases, you also at some point in time see a conversion into the product. What is your view on that and its implications?
Yes, thank you so much for your question. If we could go to the slide on the mock-up on how we're going to sell to the Gen Zs in the shoppable format, we think that the canvas is really the start. Ultimately, what we can do is when we go to the website, the format, yes, this exactly. So imagine canvas is really the selling point of what we want to sell, and this comes in decals. But we think this should be a bundle with the mouses that Logitech has. So as a Gen Z, I can choose what mouse do I want and what sticker pack do I want. And this really drives back the conversion that will capture the Gen Zs that maybe that Logitech may not have been able to. And so we really think that this drives home the point for Gen Zs.
And just to add on to that point, we actually did further research and we actually looked at which creators are subtly or maybe unsubconsciously pushing Logitech products for you. For example, a Melbourne-based creator, Rena Talk, did this Logitech setup where she had stickers on her mouse already, and that post has hundreds of thousands of views, which already probably drove people to buy that mouse. It's almost so genius if we attached a link to our direct website in that kind of video.
But if I follow your Nike example, you see that it has an impact on the product itself. If you tailor it, there is steps in the production process. Do you see that as joining of making it individual on the Logitech product itself over time? Or
Yeah,
would that be standard?
definitely. A great question, and it's something that we considered, which is why for the pilot, we want to start with something that is easy to implement first. And if it's successful, if we really have the KPIs to prove to senior leadership that we should invest in manufacturing capabilities, we can let the Gen Z tailor the mouse from scratch. I can choose what color should the scroll wheel be, what color should the sides be, but we still need to start first with the pilot, which is what we really want to prove first.
Can you pitch to me your other ideas that you had on your presentation?
I was waiting for this question the entire morning. So, which one you want to start with?
All four of them.
All four of them. Okay,
60
let's just start with the monochromic stickers.
60 seconds.
60 seconds. Why I included the first one is because it's something simple, easy to do, and people constantly see change. Okay, next. Logi Options Plus Boost. I really want to speak a lot on this one. So we mentioned that in our decal packs, there could be a thing like a QR code. Now, this QR code allows our users to scan it, and then that onboards them to our Logi Options Plus ecosystem. But why would they do it if there's no incentive for them? That's why we understand the current limitations of Logi Options Plus, but we want to pitch even more exciting ideas. Why does it just have to be a decal pack? That decal pack could unlock things like a customized cursor on your screen, a customized desktop background, a customized Teams background, if that's what you're interested in. But more importantly, it's what that decal pack, even though something so small, can drive such huge change by onboarding them to our social system. That's why we think it's really, truly important here. Sorry, and do you want the last one? Oh, you want the last one? Okay, sure. So yes, now imagine our idea. It's already there. It's the peak. We are dominant in social commerce. We, as a big company, unlock so many partnerships with other bigger companies. Like Spotify. I'm sure you guys are familiar. Spotify is a music player that every Gen Z uses. And at the end of every year, there's something called Spotify Wrapped, recapping your top artists of the year. Gen Zs love it. Gen Z share it on Instagram when no one asks. But what this does is they can pick their top artists and we can personalize it into these decals, which is exactly what can enhance that personalization layer. But of course, more expensive, but that's the genius part. Even though it's more expensive and more premium, that's exactly what's let us upgrade from the entry product line to sell things like the MX4 mouse. Or you can only get this if you buy the more expensive mouse or the more expensive keyboard, because we're offering a more expensive service. Not only is that better for our brand, better for longevity, but as well as engaging Gen Zs beyond just the entry product line. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll pivot to two different questions. One is, do you have a view on which creators, influencers we should start to work with? And the second question is, what would we do, which countries will we go after your pilot country?
Yes, thank you for your questions. I'll start first for the team, and they can add on. So when we look at Logitech, we know that you already have an existing creator network, and this spans, different content styles, different content niches. And so we think that Gen Zs are a very broad bunch. We cannot just target one type of Gen Zs like gamers, but ignore the rest. And so we think that we have to adopt a very broad-based model where we target different niches first. Because then, with the initial data, we know which segment of Gen Zs actually pick this up more. And then we can refine from there, which is why we really think that we can start there first. And then once we have a clearer picture on what works, we can, we can scale it with our agencies. And we've also done research on what agencies you should partner with. And we can also run requests for proposals for which actual partner would be the best for Logitech.
And on top of that, we plan to roll out phase 1 in Germany, but in year 2, we will roll out in Spain, France, and in year 3 onwards, we move into the Benelux region as well as other regions. Yeah. I can also walk you through the breakdown if that's what you want.
So, since I'm in operations and supply chain, let's ask a question there. So, I think you are clear on, if you have made it clear what it means for year 1, right? The canvas period. So, not a lot of investment. Then after that, right? So, what is it that the operations supply chain organization needs to build, right? What are the capabilities that are needed there, and what are the investments associated with that, according to you?
Right, so I'll talk about the practical implications first. So within the pilot, we believe that we can leverage our 3PL provider to really scale up through them. And the great thing about using a 3PL provider is that they are a dedicated fulfillment service for D2C brands, which means that we leverage their infrastructure, and it is a little bit more expensive, sure. What we also believe is that we need to upgrade the vendor facility to have a ring fence around areas specifically dedicated to this social commerce strategy, which we've also modeled the CapEx for. In total, 3,000 additional pallets will be installed.
And just to really add on in terms of the operations capability, we understand that the data is a very important part of what goes down. So in terms of supply chain, we also want to further rely on our current Connexus system to really ensure the data we get from our social commerce system feeds into it. And they also have a function which is rapid response, which allows us to actually demand forecast even better with the new data we've collected. So along what Darren has mentioned on the warehouse capabilities, we think the data collection and demand forecasting capabilities will also be something we need to work on.
So do you have some numbers around what investments are associated with that?
Yeah, so investments associated. So over the first 3 years, that CapEx looks, yes, this is the CapEx that we project. So mainly we're looking at around 1 million in CapEx just for the Venray facility alone. I think that's where we want to focus about the physical distribution. So what that means is that the ability to pack smaller pallets, to customize some pallets, and to ship the pallets directly to our 3PL provider in Germany. Yeah, so we projected that based on the cost per pallet as well as the amount of pallets we will need.
You didn't have time to go to the slide with risk and mitigations. Can you maybe take a minute, if we still have the time?
Yeah,
to take us
perfect.
through that?
Okay. So we believe the first risk is the TikTok regulations, right? So of course this is a contentious issue, and we believe that the mitigation for that is that we need to be across all platforms, and that's the beauty of partnering with creators, right? Because if they face some difficulty selling on TikTok Shop due to regulations, they will naturally pivot to other platforms because that is their livelihood. So we need to be able to cross-sell across platforms if TikTok does not roll out as planned.
And ultimately, which is why in our strategy, we have intentionally selected that we own the customer and they are led to our website, and we won't make the purchase happen through the webs, through the TikTok and through Instagram. We really want to lead them to ultimately own the relationship, and so we believe that we'll be able to mitigate a lot of these key risks.
And I believe the second risk is that the difficulties which we face when entering UK will be repeated. That is exactly why we decided not to go with a retailer distributor, instead going with our own service as well as a 3PL provider, because we can dedicate inventory, prioritize that shipment, and customize the warehouse space as well as the fulfillment towards the end customer.
You've chosen in the pilot for the Netherlands and Germany. Looks a little bit easy to me because of logistics, with Leiden and Venray. But we have a history in the UK, and you describe it as a failure. When can we learn something about how we deal with the UK? And is it in your plan?
So I'll start first for the team, because you brought up a very good point, and I want to answer this in first two parts. So first, in the UK, what that taught us was about our supply chain mistake. But yes, moving on, how can we target the UK content strategy, which is the second part I want to talk about. So yes, while we understand the supply chain issues, one thing I want to talk about moving to the UK is exactly about our playbook strategy. Now, the playbook strategy doesn't just claim to say that what works for Germany is going to work for everyone. That's why we focus, and our team emphasizes a lot on that improvement process, improving Logitech as not just one market, but how can Logitech continually dominate in every single market. That's why reviews are important, constant brand health and brand awareness, what works, and working with international agencies. For example, We Are Social, which Jocelyn has already done research and shown you on. They operate not just in the Benelux region, not just in Germany, not just in UK, they operate offices everywhere. Why this is great is because first, they have experience with working for us, and with their international exposure, they can tweak it to new markets as well.
Yep, and I think really just to add on this point of the UK, we don't see it just as a failure, but the key learning point was really we need a supply chain strategy to ensure we're ready for the market. And why we chose to enter UK later on is purely because of the operational complexity to enter the market. Hence why Germany being so close by is our first pilot, and definitely when our strategy is validated with the right numbers and the right capabilities, we can then go back to UK because their social commerce is already very well developed, but we just need to ensure that supply chain can reach the customers in time.
You started your presentation with the brand recognition, and it said, "I seen brand a lot as a kid." There's no follow-up on that statement. Do you have a to-do list for Logitech for younger people instead of Generation Z only?
Yes, definitely. So when it comes to social media platforms, we see there's generally a rise in younger audiences being on the platforms itself. And hence why our strategy is very focused not so much on the functionalities of when you need a mouse, but just the mouse being expressive, just the mouse looking good and matching my personality. And I think that spans across all ages, especially the younger generation who is so expressive. That's why you see when children go to school, they love to put stickers on their pencil cases, on their backpacks, and keychains everywhere. That is exactly why we want to increase that visibility by having content focused on that personalization on platforms like TikTok and Instagram where they're at.
And just a quick add-on as well to really answer your question. When we think about the younger generation, kids, they're already on TikTok, they're already on social platforms. If you think about some of the children you know. And so we really think our strategy really achieves this goal that they see as they scroll on where they already are, what Logitech is as a brand for them, for their generation. And so, which is why we strongly believe in our strategy.
Then a bit more product-related question. So you focus on details and customization and identity. How do you differentiate, or how have you looked at gaming versus personal workspace?
So exactly the idea I pitched to you just now. I'm happy to see you're interested in it. Well, with Twitch, what we can do is, with any collaborator actually, we would like to target the customer segment which is most relevant and partnering with the collaborator that gives us the most exposure. For example, if we find on a lot of music content, for example, we find many people who follow a particular music TikTok account, then we will want to tailor something like the Spotify strategy I told you. But actually, I know Logitech Gaming, for example, already partners with so many Logitech creators, gaming creators like Valorant and everything you've already shown us. So the opportunity is already there. But right now, what these creators are doing is, look at my Logitech headset, look at my Logitech mouse, and maybe I have a fridge behind me. That's how they're selling this content on Twitch, for example. But the opportunity is right there. It's the most obvious, the most monetizable thing on Twitch, the platform, is subscribing to your creator so I get to put funny emoticons into the chat box. I know it sounds like a joke, but it's true. That's how they drive so much revenue. The opportunity is already there. I just want to customize it.
Yeah, and just since he added a lot on gaming, I want to talk a bit more about personal workspace. So if we see the thermochromatic stickers up here, we think these decals can go beyond just looking cute, but also be functional for people who work long hours. So things like anti-slip stickers, cushion stickers on top of their mouse, which can also add a little bit of color to their personality, will also be something we can extend to personal work solutions as well.
In your approach, when you approach it with a pilot, if I understand it very correctly, what is the minimum required output of your pilot to continue? So what's your cutoff point?
Right, that's great. We created a one-year KPI dashboard to make sure that we meet the requirements. So let me summarize it first. So this is the collapsed version where we track the total content partners as well as other metrics such as the pass-through rate or the market click-through rates. And we projected it on the monthly basis. Can you move the slide before this? So these are the metrics that we will track over time, and we believe that the targets set are very reasonable. But if we underperform from the targets, that's when we have to reassess the strategy. And that's perfect. That's great. That's exactly why we rolled out in a single country first.
That's all the time we have for questions today. Thank you.